The night sky above Houston was clear and bright with stars when the first signs of trouble appeared. Captain Alan Wright stood on the observation deck of the United Earth Space Command headquarters, his eyes fixed on the large monitor showing an unknown object approaching Earth's orbit. "What do we know about it?" he asked, his voice steady despite the tension in the room. Lieutenant Samantha Price looked up from her console. "Not much, sir. It's not one of ours. The object is about the size of a small moon and moving fast." Alan nodded, his face serious under the blue glow of the screens. At 52, he had seen many strange things during his 30 years with the DEAR Space Command, but never anything like this. He straightened his uniform and made a decision. "Send the standard greeting package. All languages, all frequencies." "Yes, sir," said Communications Officer Jack Nelson. His fingers moved quickly over the control panel. Message sent. The room fell silent. 20 men and women watched the screens, waiting. Earth had made contact with alien life before, but only simple organisms found on distant moons. This was different. This was a ship, and a big one. 3 minutes passed, then 5. The object continued its approach. "Sir," Jack said suddenly, "we're receiving a response." "On screen," Alan ordered. The main display flickered, and everyone gasped. The creature on screen was tall and gray, with 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. Its mouth was wide and filled with small, sharp teeth. "I am Captain Alan Wright of the United Earth Space Command. We welcome you to—" The alien made a harsh sound and cut him off. "We are the Craxian Empire. Your planet has resources we need. Surrender now or be destroyed." Alan kept his face calm. "I'm sure we can discuss sharing resources. Earth is open to peaceful." The screen went black. "They've cut transmission," Jack said, his voice shaking. Alan turned to his second-in-command. "Commander Linda Evans, raise our alert level to maximum. Contact all UESC ships. I want—" A blinding flash lit up the night sky, then another, and another. "They're firing on major cities," someone shouted. The room erupted in activity. Alarms blared. Red lights flashed. "Get me the president," Alan said, his knuckles white as he gripped the edge of the console. Before anyone could respond, the building shook violently. Dust fell from the ceiling. Screens cracked. People were thrown to the floor. "Direct hit on Houston," reported a pale-faced officer. "New York is gone. London, Beijing, all major cities are under attack." Alan helped Linda to her feet. Blood ran down her face from a cut on her forehead. "We need to evacuate, now. Get as many people as you can to the emergency shuttles." "But sir, we can't just—" "That's an order, Commander. This building won't last much longer." They ran through shaking corridors, gathering stunned staff members along the way. Twice they had to find alternate routes as sections of the building collapsed. When they reached the underground shuttle bay, only 73 people had made it. "Take off as soon as everyone is strapped in," Alan told the pilot. A young man named Vincent Reyes who looked barely old enough to shave. "Where to, sir?" "Europa base. It's our best chance. The Craxians might not know about it yet." The shuttle lifted off just as the UESC headquarters collapsed. Through the viewport, they watched in horror as Houston burned. Great beams of energy rained down from the Craxian ship, turning the city into a sea of fire. "How could this happen?" Linda asked, her voice barely audible over the roar of the engines. "We've only just begun exploring our own solar system. How can we fight something like that?" Alan had no answer. The journey to Europa, Jupiter's icy moon, took 3 days. 3 days of watching news reports showing Earth's destruction. 3 days of counting the dead. 3 days of listening to the Craxian broadcast that played on every frequency. Submit to the Empire or face extinction. Europa base was built, beneath the moon's thick ice shell, hidden from orbital scans. When their shuttle arrived, they found other survivors had made it too. Admiral Gregory Howard had escaped from the lunar colony. Dr. Lisa Martinez had been off-world, studying microbes in Mars's polar ice. Chief Engineer Paul Jackson had been overseeing construction of a new research station on Ganymede. All told, about 3,000 military personnel and civilians had reached the safety of Europa base. On the fourth day after the attack, Admiral Howard called a meeting of all senior officers. They gathered in the base's largest room, a space meant for scientific conferences, not war councils. "The situation is grim," Howard said. He was a tall man with dark skin and graying hair. His uniform hung loose on his frame, as if he had lost weight suddenly. "We estimate Earth's population has been reduced by 60%. Major military installations have been destroyed. The Craxians now have ground forces in what's left of our cities." The room was silent. The weight of his words pressed down on everyone. "But," Howard continued, his voice growing stronger, "we are not beaten. Not yet. The Craxians made one critical mistake. They thought their first strike would break us. It didn't. Now we fight back." "With what?" someone asked. "Their technology is centuries beyond ours." Lieutenant Samantha Price stood up. She was young for her rank, only 31, with short brown hair and intense eyes. "Maybe their ships are better than ours. Maybe their weapons are stronger. But they don't know humans very well." She walked to the front of the room and pulled up data on the main screen. "I've been analyzing the Craxian attack patterns. There's something weird about their energy weapons. They create distortions in quantum fields that shouldn't be possible." "Get to the point, Lieutenant," Howard said. "The point is, sir, I think we can use these distortions against them, create a feedback loop that would disable their systems." Chief Engineer Jackson leaned forward. "You're talking about a quantum disruptor. That's theoretical technology." "It was theoretical," Price said, "until I figured out how to build one." A murmur ran through the crowd. Hope flickered in faces that had shown only shock and grief for days. Admiral Howard studied Price for a long moment. Then he smiled for the first time since the attack. "They don't know humans very well, do they?" he said softly. Captain Alan Wright looked around at the tired, determined faces of Earth's survivors and felt something he thought he had lost forever: resolve. Outside, beyond Europa's ice, the massive Craxian ship orbited Earth like a predator, watching wounded prey, unaware that the prey was planning to bite back. 3 weeks passed on Europa base. The ice moon shook occasionally as Jupiter's massive gravity pulled at it. But inside the hidden base, a different kind of energy was building, the energy of human determination. Lieutenant Samantha Price hadn't slept more than 4 hours a night since the attack. Her small lab was filled with equipment salvaged from other research stations. Screens showed complex equations and diagrams of what she called the quantum disruptor. "It's not working," she said, pushing away from her desk in frustration. She rubbed her tired eyes and looked at Dr. Olivia Bennett, the quantum physicist who had joined her team. "We're close," Olivia said. She was older than Samantha, with lines around her eyes that had deepened since the attack. "The theory is sound. We just need more data on how their weapons function." Captain Alan Wright entered the lab. He moved with purpose despite his own exhaustion. "How's progress?" he asked. Samantha sighed. "Slow. We need to study their technology up close." Alan nodded. He'd been expecting this. "Admiral Howard and I have been discussing that. We're planning a mission to capture a Craxian scout ship." "That's suicide," Olivia said. "Maybe," Alan admitted. "But we need that ship. The Craxians continue to bomb what's left of our cities. They're hunting for survivors. It's only a matter of time before they find us here." Samantha stood up. "I want to be part of the mission." "No," Alan said firmly. "You're too valuable. We need you here working on the disruptor." He left before she could argue. Outside the lab, he met Commander Linda Evans, her forehead now sporting a fresh scar from the attack. "The team is ready," she said. "Vincent Reyes has been training on the stealth shuttle. If anyone can get close to a scout ship without being detected, it's him." "Good. We leave in 6 hours." The mission team gathered in the shuttle bay. 20 soldiers and engineers, the best they had left. Vincent Reyes, the young pilot who had gotten them to Europa, checked his controls one last time. "Remember," Alan told the team, "we need the HFY ship intact, and we need at least one Craxian alive to study." The shuttle left Europa base through a hidden exit in the ice. They powered down all non-essential systems to avoid detection. For 3 days, they drifted toward Earth, looking like just another piece of space debris. "There," Vincent whispered, as if the Craxians might hear him through the vacuum of space. Scout ship at 2 o'clock. On the view screen, a small Craxian vessel patrolled the ruins of what had once been the International Space Station. The alien ship was sleek and dark, with strange glowing points along its hull. "Move us into position," Alan ordered. "Prepare boarding team." Vincent guided their shuttle with expert precision. They approached from below, hiding in the scout ship's sensor, Shadow. When they were close enough, Alan gave the signal. 5 crew members in spacesuits pushed off from the shuttle. They carried magnetic clamps and cutting tools. In the silence of space, they attached themselves to the Craxian hull. "Beginning cut," reported Sergeant Frank Miller over the comm. "Their hull is strange, almost alive." For 10 tense minutes, the team worked to create an entry point. Finally, Sergeant Miller said, "We're in." The boarding team entered the Craxian ship. Minutes passed with only brief communications. Then gunfire. Alien screeches. A human scream cut short. "We've secured the bridge," Miller finally reported. 4 team members down, 3 Craxians dead, 1 captured. "The ship is ours." Alan closed, his eyes briefly. 4 good people gone. He wondered if their sacrifice would be worth it. "Bring the ship back to Europa," he ordered. Full stealth mode. The journey back was tense. The captured Craxian fought against its restraints until Dr. Lisa Martinez sedated it. The alien technology on the scout ship hummed and pulsed in ways that made everyone nervous. When they reached Europa base, Chief Engineer Paul Jackson and his team swarmed the Craxian vessel. They began taking it apart piece by piece, careful not to trigger any self-destruct systems. "This is amazing," Paul said, holding up a small device that glowed with inner light. "Their power source uses principles we've only theorized about." Samantha Price rushed into the hangar bay. "Let me see it," she demanded. When Paul handed her the device, she studied it with intense focus. "This is it. This is what we need." In her lab, Samantha connected the Craxian power source to her equipment. New data flowed across her screens. "The quantum field distortions are intentional," she said to Olivia. "They're using them to amplify their weapon power." "And if we reverse the process?" Olivia asked. "Their own energy turns against them." For 2 more weeks they worked to understand the alien technology. The captured Craxian was kept sedated while Dr. Martinez studied its biology. "Their nervous system is unlike ours," she reported to Admiral Howard. "They evolved on a high-radiation planet. Their bodies are designed to absorb and channel energy, which makes them vulnerable to our disruptor," Samantha added. She had been invited to the briefing to share her progress. "We've built a prototype. It works on the components from the scout ship." "How big is it?" Howard asked. "Right now? About the size of a truck. We need time to make it smaller." "Time is something we don't have," Howard said grimly. "Our scouts report the Craxians are systematically destroying every human outpost they find. Mars colony fell yesterday." The room grew quiet. "How many people?" Alan asked. 800, Howard answered. "No survivors." Samantha slammed her fist on the table. "Give me 2 more weeks. I can make the disruptor small enough to be deployed. By a single team." Howard studied her determined face. "You have 10 days. The next week and a half passed in a blur of activity. Europa base became a hive of focused energy. Engineers worked alongside scientists. Soldiers trained for the coming battle. Even the civilians helped where they could, preparing supplies and equipment. In her lab, Samantha and Olivia achieved what seemed impossible. They miniaturized the quantum disruptor into a device the size of a backpack. "It's ready for testing," Samantha told Captain Wright. They took the device to a secure chamber where parts of the Craxian scout ship were stored. When Samantha activated the disruptor, the alien technology sputtered, sparked, and went dead. "It works," she said, her face lighting up with the first real smile anyone had seen in weeks. Alan squeezed her shoulder. Good work. Now we need a plan to get this onto their main ship. In the command center, Admiral Howard gathered the senior staff. The main screen showed the massive Craxian mothership that still orbited Earth. We have one chance at this, Howard said. One team must infiltrate that ship and plant the disruptor at its power core. I volunteer, Samantha said immediately. This time, Alan didn't object. She knows the device better than anyone, he acknowledged. Howard nodded. Lieutenant Price will lead the mission. Captain Wright will coordinate from the command vessel. We'll use the captured scout ship to approach the mothership. When do we leave? Samantha asked. 24 hours, Howard answered. It's time to show the Craxians who they're dealing with. Around the room, faces showed determination mixed with fear. The coming mission would either save humanity or end their last hope. But after weeks of running and hiding, they were ready to fight back. The captured Craxian scout ship felt wrong to Vincent Reyes. The controls were designed for four-fingered hands. The seats were too tall. The air smelled like metal and something sweet that made his throat itch. But he had spent every waking hour of the past 3 days learning to fly it. How's it coming? Lieutenant Samantha Price asked. She stood behind him, watching him practice with the alien navigation system. I can fly it, Vincent said, but I can't promise a smooth ride. Samantha nodded. It doesn't need to be smooth, it just needs to get us there. The mission team consisted of 6 people. Samantha would lead, carrying the quantum disruptor. Vincent would pilot. Sergeant Frank Miller and 2 other soldiers would provide security. Technician Heather Rodriguez would help install the device at the Craxian power core. Captain Alan Wright entered the ship. Final briefing in 10 minutes, he said. Admiral Howard wants to speak to everyone before launch, in the command center. The atmosphere was tense. Maps and diagrams of the Craxian mothership covered the screens, based on information they had pulled from the scout ship's computers. Admiral Howard stood tall, his hands clasped behind his back. This mission is our only chance, he said. While Lieutenant Price's team infiltrates the mothership, our remaining forces will launch coordinated attacks from multiple locations. We need to keep the Craxians distracted. What forces? Someone asked. We barely have enough ships to mount a defense, let alone an attack. We've made contact with other survivors, Howard replied. Hidden bases on Mars's moons, the mining, colony on Ceres, and 3 deep space research stations. They've all agreed to join the fight, he pointed to the map. The attacks will begin here, here, and here. The Craxians will need to divide their forces to respond. That should give our infiltration team their opening. Alan studied the faces of the mission team. They were young, most of them. Too young to carry humanity's fate on their shoulders, but they were all they had left. One more thing, Howard said. We've learned from the captured Craxian that their species has never faced serious resistance before. They conquer by overwhelming force, and their victims usually surrender immediately. They're not used to fighting opponents who refuse to give up. A thin smile crossed his face. Let's show them how humans fight when our backs are against the wall. 2 hours later, the scout ship departed Europa Base. Vincent piloted while trying to mimic Craxian flight patterns. The rest of the team hid in the cargo area along with the quantum disruptor. Approaching Earth orbit, Vincent said after a tense journey, I can see the mothership. Through the view screen, the Craxian mothership appeared enormous. It was shaped like a giant claw, with sections that glowed with the same strange light they had seen on the scout ship. Sending approach signal, Vincent said. He activated the communication sequence they had prepared. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a harsh voice responded in the Craxian language. Vincent played the recording they had prepared. Will they buy it? Samantha whispered. Vincent shrugged. We'll know soon. The mothership grew larger in the view screen. A section of its hull opened, revealing a docking bay filled with ships similar to theirs. They're letting us in, Vincent said, relief in his voice. He guided the scout ship into the docking bay and landed among the other vessels. As soon as they touched down, Heather activated the jamming device they had built. It would block any short-range scans that might detect human biosigns. Remember the plan, Samantha said as they prepared to leave the ship. We have 30 minutes. To reach the power core, plant the disruptor, and get back. They exited the scout ship wearing stolen Craxian armor. The helmets concealed their human features, but the suits were uncomfortable and heavy. The docking bay was busy with Craxian soldiers and workers. Sergeant Miller led the way, trying to look confident as they moved through the crowd. They had memorized the route to the power core from the schematics. Left at the next junction, Miller said quietly. They turned down a corridor that was less crowded. The walls pulsed with the same strange energy they had seen outside. The floor vibrated beneath their feet. We're getting closer to the core, Heather said, checking the small device on her wrist. Power readings are increasing. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the ship. Red lights flashed. They know we're here, Frank said. No, Samantha replied, looking at a nearby view screen. It showed space outside the mothership, where small explosions bloomed against the darkness. The attack has started. The corridor ahead filled with Craxian soldiers rushing toward battle stations. The team pressed against the wall, trying to avoid attention. When the corridor cleared, they moved faster. 2 more turns brought them to a massive door marked with Craxian symbols. The power core, Heather confirmed. Frank and the other soldiers positioned themselves to guard the entrance while Heather worked on the door controls. After a tense minute, the door slid open. Inside was a chamber larger than they had expected. At its center floated a sphere of blinding energy, contained within rings of rotating metal. The heat was intense, even through their suits. There. Samantha pointed to a control panel near the sphere. That's where we need to plant the disruptor. They moved carefully across the chamber. No Craxians were present. They were likely all responding to the attack outside. Heather knelt by the panel and began removing its cover. Samantha took the quantum disruptor from her back. The device hummed softly, reacting to the enormous energy. Source nearby. Hurry, Frank called from the doorway. I can hear them coming. Heather finished exposing the control panel's inner workings. Samantha connected the disruptor to the alien technology, following the procedure they had practiced countless times. How long? Frank asked, raising his weapon as sounds of approaching Craxians grew louder. 2 minutes to connect it properly, Samantha answered, her fingers working quickly. Then 5 minutes until it activates. Frank nodded grimly. We'll buy you the time. He and the other soldiers took positions by the door. When the first Craxians appeared, the humans opened fire. The battle was fierce. One of the human soldiers fell immediately. Frank took a hit to his shoulder but kept fighting. Done! Samantha called. The disruptor was now connected, its lights blinking in sequence. 5 minutes to activation. We need to get out of here. They retreated from the power core, Frank and the remaining soldier providing covering fire. They ran down corridors now filled with chaos as the ship shuddered from external attacks. 2 minutes to the docking bay, Vincent said. They turned a corner and found themselves face to face with 4 Craxian soldiers. There was no time to hide. The aliens raised their weapons. Frank fired first, taking down 2 of them. The remaining soldier got the 3rd, but the 4th Craxian fired, hitting Heather in the leg. She fell with a cry of pain. Samantha and Vincent dragged Heather while Frank covered their retreat. They finally reached the docking bay, now nearly empty as most ships had launched to fight. 1 minute until the disruptor activates, Samantha said as they boarded their scout ship. Vincent jumped into the pilot seat and started the engines. The scout ship lifted off just as more Craxians entered the bay. They burst out of the mothership into space filled with battling ships. Human vessels, cobbled together from various sources, fought against superior Craxian fighters. 30 seconds, Samantha said. Vincent pushed the engines to maximum speed, putting distance between them and the mothership. 10 seconds. They watched through the view screen as the countdown reached 0. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a pulse of energy rippled across the mothership's surface. Its lights flickered, then went out. All around it, Craxian ships suddenly lost power and drifted helplessly in space. It worked, Samantha said, her voice filled with wonder. It actually worked. On the communications channel, they heard Captain Alan Wright's voice. You bombed us? That's cute, now watch this. And then, as one, the human ships attacked the defenseless Craxian fleet. The human fleet surged forward. Ships that had been hiding for months now attacked with everything they had. The Craxian vessels drifted helplessly, their systems shut down by the quantum disruptor. From his command ship, Captain Alan Wright watched the battle unfold. His vessel, a former mining ship converted for war, led the charge. "Target their weapon systems first," he ordered. "Then their engines. We want to capture as many ships intact as possible." The human ships swarmed around the massive Craxian vessels like angry bees. Precision strikes disabled key systems without destroying the ships completely. The Craxians, used to overwhelming their enemies with superior technology, had never prepared for this scenario. On the scout ship, Samantha Price watched through the view screen as humanity fought back. "We need to return to the mothership," she said suddenly. Vincent Reyes turned to look at her, surprise on his face. "What? Why would we go back there?" "The Emperor," Samantha said. "According to the data we found, the Craxian Emperor is on that ship. He came to watch Earth's final defeat." Sergeant Frank Miller, his shoulder hastily bandaged, nodded. "If we capture their leader, this could end today." Vincent hesitated, then turned the ship around. "Tell Captain Wright our plan." Samantha contacted the command ship. Alan's face appeared on the screen, smoke visible behind him. "You want to do what?" he asked when she explained. "We can end this war now," Samantha insisted. "The disruptor will keep their systems down for at least another hour. That's enough time to reach the command center and capture the Emperor." Alan frowned, but then nodded. "Do it. I'll send reinforcements to meet you." The scout ship returned to the mothership's docking bay, now dark and silent without power. The team moved quickly through the corridors, Heather limping between Samantha and Vincent. "According to the schematics, the command center is 3 levels up," Frank said. They encountered small groups of confused Craxian soldiers. Some fought with handheld weapons that still worked, but most seemed lost without their technology. As they climbed through the ship, they began to hear human voices ahead. The reinforcements had arrived through other entrances. "This way," Frank called, leading them down a wide corridor. They turned a corner and found themselves facing the massive doors of the command center. A team of human soldiers was already there, trying to force the doors open. "Lieutenant Price," said the team leader, saluting. "Captain Wright said you'd be coming. We're almost through." With a loud groan, the doors finally opened. Inside, a dozen Craxians stood in defensive positions. Behind them, on a raised platform, sat a larger Craxian wearing ornate armor. The Emperor. A brief, fierce firefight erupted. 3 humans fell, but the Craxian guards were outnumbered and quickly overwhelmed. The Emperor remained seated, all 4 eyes watching as the humans approached. He showed no fear, only a cold curiosity. "You," he said in heavily accented English. "How did you disable our ships?" Samantha stepped forward. "The same way you killed millions of our people, with technology." The Emperor's wide mouth twisted in what might have been a smile. "Interesting. Our scans showed your species was primitive, yet you created a weapon that could defeat our fleet." "You should have studied us better," Samantha replied. "Humans are at their most dangerous when cornered." Outside the mothership, the battle was turning decisively in humanity's favor. The human ships had disabled or captured most of the Craxian fleet. Those few ships that had been far enough away to escape the disruptor's effect were fleeing. In the command center of the mothership, the Emperor was placed in restraints. Human soldiers secured the area and began downloading data from the Craxian computers. "Send a message to all Craxian forces," Frank told the communications officer. "Tell them their Emperor has been captured and they should surrender immediately." The officer nodded and began working on the alien system. Samantha stepped closer to the Emperor. "Why did you attack us? We sent peaceful greetings." The Emperor's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "Your planet has resources we need. You were weak. It is the way of the galaxy." "Then the galaxy needs to learn a new way," she said. Captain Alan Wright arrived at the command center an hour later. His uniform was torn and dirty, but his eyes were bright with victory. "The Craxian fleet has surrendered," he announced. Those ships that tried to escape have been captured or destroyed. The humans in the room cheered. After months of hiding and running, the feeling of triumph was almost overwhelming. Alan approached the Emperor. "You will order all your forces throughout the solar system to stand down. Any Craxian ship or soldier that continues to fight will be destroyed." The Emperor stared at him for a long moment, then nodded once. "It will be done." Over the next few days, the situation on Earth began to stabilize. The Craxian forces surrendered and were placed in containment areas. Human survivors emerged from hiding places and shelters. The full extent of the damage became clear. Most major cities were destroyed, infrastructure was in ruins, and billions had died, but humans were already rebuilding. A week after the battle, Admiral Howard called a meeting of all senior officers on the captured mothership. They gathered in what had been the Emperor's private chamber, now converted to a war room. "The Craxians have provided us with star charts and information about other species," Howard said. "It seems they're part of a larger coalition of aggressive species that prey on weaker civilizations." "Are they coming for us next?" someone asked. Howard shook his head. "Not immediately. The loss of their emperor and fleet has thrown their empire into chaos. But eventually, yes, they or others will come." He gestured to Chief Engineer Paul Jackson, who stepped forward. "We've been studying the Craxian technology," Paul said. "Their faster-than-light drives, their weapons, their shields, all of it is now ours. With these advances, we can build ships that can travel to other star systems. We can prepare for the next attack." "And we will be ready," added Alan Wright. He looked around at the faces of Earth's defenders. "What happened to us cannot happen again, not to any peaceful species." Samantha Price sat quietly listening. In the past week, she had continued working on the quantum disruptor, improving its design and range. "We should reach out to other species," she suggested. "Find allies who have also suffered from these aggressive empires." Howard nodded. "Already planning to. The Craxian databases contain information about dozens of species that might be sympathetic to us." As the meeting concluded, Samantha walked to a viewport that showed Earth below. From this distance, the scars of war were less visible. The planet still looked beautiful, blue and green and alive. "We survived," Vincent said, coming to stand beside her. "Against all odds." Samantha nodded. "And we learned something important, something the Craxians and their allies need to understand." "What's that?" She turned to him, her eyes serious. "Never underestimate humans. We don't give up, and we fight back." Below them, Earth continued to turn, damaged but undefeated. 1 year passed since the day humanity turned the tide against the Craxian Empire. Earth was healing, but the scars remained visible from space. Where great cities once stood, new settlements were growing. The ruins were being cleared and new buildings rose from the ashes. Captain Alan Wright, now Admiral Wright, stood on the bridge of the Defiance, Earth's first true warship built with Craxian technology. The ship was larger than anything humans had constructed before, with weapons and defenses that would have seemed like magic just a year ago. "Status report," Alan said to his second-in-command, Commander Linda Evans. "All systems ready, sir," she replied. "The fleet is assembled and waiting for your orders." Alan nodded and looked at the view screen. 20 ships of various sizes formed a protective ring around Earth. Some were converted Craxian vessels. Others were new ships built in the orbital shipyards that now circled the planet. "Open a channel to all ships," he said. Linda pressed a few controls on her panel. "Channel open, sir." Alan took a deep breath. "This is Admiral Wright to all ships. Today we begin our first diplomatic mission beyond our solar system. Our goal is to make contact with the Tellarian civilization, who according to Craxian records have also suffered from their aggression. We go not as conquerors, but as potential allies in a dangerous galaxy. Good luck to us all." Right out. The fleet moved away from Earth, their engines glowing blue against the blackness of space. When they reached the edge of the solar system, the ships activated their FTL drives, vanishing in flashes of light. Back on Earth, Lieutenant Samantha Price, now Director Price, watched their departure from the new Houston Research Center. The facility was built on the ruins of the old UESC headquarters, a reminder of how much had changed. "Do you think they'll succeed?" asked Dr. Olivia Bennett, who stood beside her. "If anyone can make first contact go right this time, it's Alan," Samantha replied. "Besides, the Talarians have every reason to talk to us. We're the only ones who've defeated the Craxians." The research center buzzed with activity. Scientists and engineers from around the world worked together, studying alien technology and developing new inventions. The quantum disruptor that had saved humanity was now standard equipment on all Earth ships, along with many other advances. Samantha walked through the labs, checking on various projects. In one room, engineers tested new shield technology. In another, scientists studied the biology of different alien species from the Craxian database. Director Price called a young researcher named Marcus Green. "We've had a breakthrough with the communication system." Samantha joined him at his workstation. On the screen, complex equations and diagrams showed a new type of faster-than-light communication. "With this, we can talk to our fleet in real time, no matter how far they go," Marcus explained, his eyes bright with excitement. "No more waiting, days or weeks for messages." "Excellent work," Samantha said. "Get it to production immediately." In another part of the facility, the captured Craxian emperor was held in a special containment area. Unlike the rest of his forces who had been sent back to their homeworld with a warning, the emperor remained on Earth as both prisoner and resource. Dr. Lisa Martinez was one of the few humans who spoke with him regularly, learning about Craxian culture and biology. "Your people rebuild quickly," the emperor said as Lisa entered his quarters. He sat on a specially designed chair, his 4 eyes tracking her movements. "We've always been good at that," Lisa replied. "How are you feeling today?" The emperor's mouth twisted slightly. "The same. Curious. Your species continues to surprise me. Good. Maybe you'll think twice before attacking someone weaker next time." The emperor made a sound that might have been a laugh. "There is no next time for me, but my successors will remember the lesson of Earth." In orbit above the planet, Sergeant Frank Miller, now General Miller, oversaw the training of Earth's new defense forces on the space station, Guardian. Young men and women from every surviving nation trained together, learning to use the new technology and weapons. "Faster!" Frank shouted as a squad ran through a simulation of boarding a hostile ship. "The enemy won't wait for you to catch your breath." The trainees pushed harder, their movements becoming more coordinated. Frank watched with pride. Many of them had lost everything in the attack, but instead of giving up, they had volunteered to protect what remained. "General," called his aide, "Admiral Howard wants to speak with you." Frank nodded and went to the communication room. "Admiral Gregory," Howard's face appeared on the screen. "How's the training going?" Howard asked. "Good, sir. This group will be ready within the month." "Excellent. We've detected unusual activity at the edge of the system. Probably nothing, but I want a response team ready just in case." Frank straightened. "We'll be ready, sir." 3 days later, Admiral Wright's fleet arrived at the Talarian home system. The alien world was beautiful, with rings like Saturn but colored deep purple. The Talarian ships approached cautiously, their designs strange and elegant. "They're hailing us," Linda reported. "On screen," Alan ordered. The view screen showed a Talarian. The alien had 6 limbs and skin that shifted colors like a chameleon. Its voice was translated by the computer. "Human vessel. Why have you entered our space? We know your kind only from Craxian warnings." Alan stepped forward. "We come in peace. The Craxians attacked our world, but we defeated them. We believe we could be allies against common enemies." The Talarian's skin flashed blue with surprise. "You defeated the Craxian fleet? Impossible. They have conquered 100 worlds." "We have proof," Alan said, "and we're willing to share the technology that helped us win." For a long moment, the Talarian was silent. Then its skin turned a warm gold color. "Perhaps we should talk, humans. You are more interesting than the Craxians claimed." 2 weeks later, the fleet returned to Earth with representatives from 5 different alien civilizations, all former victims of Craxian aggression. They gathered in the new United Earth Council chamber to sign the first interstellar alliance. In human history, Samantha watched from the sidelines as Admiral Wright and the alien representatives signed the treaty. She felt a mixture of pride and sadness. Humanity had survived and grown stronger, but at a terrible cost. Vincent Reyes stood beside her. Now Captain Reyes, he commanded his own ship in Earth's growing fleet. "Did you ever think we'd end up here?" he asked quietly. "A year ago we were hiding on Europa, and now we're signing treaties with aliens." Samantha shook her head. "Never, but that's what humans do, isn't it? We adapt, we survive." As the ceremony concluded, Admiral Howard stepped to the podium to address the gathered representatives. "Today marks a new chapter not just for Earth but for all peace-loving civilizations. The Craxians thought they found an easy target when they attacked us. Instead, they woke a sleeping giant, and now that giant stands ready to defend not just itself, but all who wish to live in peace." The room erupted in applause, human and alien alike. Outside the council chamber, Earth continued to rebuild. New cities rose from the ruins. Children played in parks where battles had been fought. And in orbit, shipyards worked day and night, preparing humanity for whatever might come next from the depths of space. The stars no longer seemed distant and unreachable. They were humanity's new frontier, filled with both danger and promise. And humanity was ready.